Okay, what a wild weekend in the NFL starting on Tuesday for the first round of the NFL draft. As my one friend, who I will not name names, described it, that drug took too many edibles. Uh, and that's how the Ball podcast is going to kick off this episode of our post NFL draft reactions. I'm joined here with Chris. I know you're excited about what the Seahawks did. I'm excited about what the Ravens did. Carter also had his first lacrosse game. I saw that was pretty cool.
He sure did, and I just want to say, like, I've been posting it all over social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Anyone that wants to hear it, I will say it. I am so proud of my son. Unfortunately, being the coach's kid, you have a tendency to draw the short straw on many occasions, and this weekend was no exception. Bunch of 4, 5, and 6-year-olds playing their first ever lacrosse game, and we need a goalie. And we need someone to put on the goalie pads and go stand in between the pipes. And of course, asking the parents, like, hey, like, whose kid wants to play goalie? Hey, who's interested in playing goalie? Like, and just ghost silence. We my team manager sent out a message, I think it was Friday night, being like, hey, like, we're hoping that one of the kids who isn't coming to the tournament next weekend can step up and play goalie this weekend, to try to keep it fair for everyone. Again, nothing. One parent's like, oh, I heard this child was interested in playing, and the mom being like, oh, well, like, he is interested, but not the first game, like maybe later down the road. Okay, so anyways, we get to the arena on Saturday, and like, I'd asked Carter earlier in the week, being like, hey, buddy, like, will you play goalie on Saturday? He goes, no, Dad. Crap. Yeah, I'm like, really, buddy? Like, can you please just, like, try it? And he goes, no. Okay, cool. This weekend should be interesting. So we get to the arena on Saturday. The kids are in the dressing room. All the other kids are already in their pads. I walk in, and like, nobody even says, like, hey, my kid wants to play goalie, or hey, who's playing goalie today, or can my kid step up and help? Nothing. Again, ghost silence as we walk into the dressing room. And I'm just like, I look at Carter, I look at everyone else in the dressing room in their player gear already, and I go, hey, buddy, I'm like, can you please play goalie for Dad today? He goes, okay. Like, really? I'm like, are you sure, bud? He goes, yeah, I'll do it. I'm like, oh my God, like captain. I know you're only 4, but like, captain material already. Yeah. And so I'm putting the goalie gear on him, and I whisper in his ear, and I go, hey, buddy, I owe you ice cream. And I just want to say, Carter killed it. He did so good. Like,
nice.
I was taking a couple warm-up shots on him before the game, and I want to add, for the mini tykes, for this age group, they use like a the ball is squishy, not super squishy, but it's not as hard as a normal lacrosse ball. So I'm throwing that at Carter a couple times. I hit him in the leg pad. I hit him in the chest pad or whatever. And then back-to-back shots, I hit him right in the throat guard. And my dad, who was one of my assistant coaches, starts just laying into, hey, like, take it easy. Like, what are you doing? And Carter, I'm like, Carter, are you okay? He goes, yeah, I'm good. And it was super fun. I'm super proud of Carter for stepping up and playing goalie. I'm super proud of all the kids. The kids did great. Of course, like 10 minutes into the game, I want to say, Carter goes, Dad, I have to go to the bathroom. God damn it. And I asked him before I put the pads on, I'm like, buddy, can you go pee before we put these on? He goes, no, I don't have to. And then 10 minutes in, Dad, I have to go to the bathroom. And like, if he was in his player gear, like, yeah, no problem, let's go, like, pull your shorts down, go to the bathroom type of thing. He's in the goalie gear, so we literally have to take everything off: leg pads, pants, the chest protector, like everything has to come off in order for him to be able to just to go pee. And but yeah, he did super great. He made one like huge save on a kid where like he actually like moved his body rather than the kid just hitting him with the ball. He moved and got in the way and actually made a save. And it was super cool because all of the parents in the arena started cheering for him.
Nice.
And he like gave him like a huge cheer. Which
yeah, don't try and rope my kid into this by cheering loudly for
oh yeah. Well, I mean, I probably like made a mistake giving him ice cream for playing goalie too. He's like, oh, I haven't played goalie, I'm gonna get ice cream.
Right before the game. By the way, that was a one-time offer. You're not getting ice cream.
Yeah, it's okay because eventually genetics are going to catch up to him, and he's not going to be big enough to play goalie anyways. So I'm not too worried about it.
That's funny.
Fun fact, actually. When I was a kid, because you don't really find a designated goalie until you reach like, I want to say 11, maybe 12, like is when kids start like being like, yeah, I want to be a goalie. So anyways, my first ever game MVP that I got when I was a kid at a tournament was when I was, I want to say, again, 10 or 11 probably, and it was playing goalie.
Nice.
My first ever game MVP award was being, and we got absolutely trounced that game. I think we lost like 14-2.
That's why you got
it. But no, but even with that, I still made the other team's parents were like counting how many shots their kids got. And I think even though I let in 14 goals, I still made something like 50 saves or something outrageous. Like, so that's why I got it.
The old pick me up MVP.
Yeah, the only game that tournament that I didn't play in goal, I played in goal for most of that tournament. And the only game I didn't play goalie was the game that my grandpa was coming to. I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna play goalie when grandpa's there, and then I got kicked out instead. As a 10-year-old, grandpa was not impressed.
Some things never change.
Some things never change. Absolutely. How was your weekend, dude? I know bit of a bug running through the Fisher household.
Yeah, I did test myself, a few hours ago. I did not test positive, so that's a good news. It's just a little cold or whatever the hell it is. But we went up yesterday to check some trail cams. I got a set of trail cams for Christmas this past Christmas, so we've been putting them up. And I know I shared some of them with you. And the first round, I got 39 videos of a moose, which was pretty damn cool. I was happy to get anything other than like a squirrel running up a tree or something.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I saw Mark Messier on your trail cam.
Yeah. The moose is the moose. Yeah, so I left it there. We went and checked that out again. Some more I'll share them with you as well. Some more really cool videos, just really up close and like weird actions from moose. So I just find it fascinating getting to see, like, if I could sit in, like, you can't shoot them right now, obviously, but if I could just sit for a whole day and watch a moose, knowing I couldn't kill it and harvest it, I would still take that chance every time to just sit and watch.
So I have a question for you with those trail cams. Like, you go and you set them up. Like, how do you know someone's not going to steal your trail cam?
You don't.
Okay.
You just have to. I mean, you don't put them like with a flag and spray paint. Like, hey, everybody, here's my trail cam. And,
right.
They kind of blend in as well. So you hope if somebody comes across, like I've come across so many trail cams, and you give them a little wave or whatever, and then you just move on, kind of idea. I've heard of people taking them as well, and it's one of those things that you risk for it. But it was cool. More moose pictures, and we actually found. I don't know how much you've trailed into the backcountry, but we knew there was a way to get from the start of Bear Creek all the way to the backside of Glen Rosa. and we found the way. Like we just kept driving, and we had our little iHunter maps, and we found the road, and it was really cool because now we'll just drive the other way to get to a couple different spots. So a successful weekend. But let's get into a little football here. I guess let's just start this off with your general reaction to the Seahawks draft. I know every single time draft happens, there's these instant grades. Did they get an A? Did they get an A minus, a B, whatever? I know you're happy about it, but if you had to give it a grade, what would you give it, and what's kind of like your overall just reaction to it?
Yeah, I'm not a grade guy, so don't ask me to grade it because I won't. Because I'm not I just want to be like A plus. Like I have no idea. Um, and you know that. Like I don't really know how those draft grades really work. Seahawks Canada, which by the way, everyone go follow at Seahawks Canada on Twitter. It's the official home of Seahawks content made for the 12 North. So go check them out over on Twitter. It's a new venture for the Seahawks. They're of course trying to expand their international identity, which is kind of funny to think about. Like we're neighbors, but yeah, we are technically international fans. And they tweeted out, "What do you think 12 North? Let's hear your responses in the comments." And it was describe the Seahawks 2022 draft in one word. And I replied back just saying satisfied.
Nice.
I loved the mentality. Thank you. Saying thank you to my wife. I loved, and I expressed this to you in private as well, Steve. I loved the mentality this year. I loved how it was just like, we have a guy that we want, or we have a couple guys that we want at this draft spot. No trading back, no trading up. Let's just get our guy. Let's just stay here and get one of the guys that we want. And I love that.
It's such a risky play at that, right? Like
it's just something we haven't seen from the Seahawks in years. Right?
It's like a change up of strategy almost.
Yeah, for years it's been like, oh, the Seahawks are going to trade back again. Like, I mean, and you can say like that's the luxury of the riches, where it's like, oh, we're going to trade back this year, and we're going to trade out of the first round entirely, and we can wait to take a guy, and not that word. Where it's like now, it's like we have holes to fill, and we have to address those holes,
right?
And I think they did a great job. So, like I said, I'm not going to give it a draft grade just because I don't understand those grades and how they work. But I am going to say I'm extremely satisfied with how this weekend went. And they didn't take a quarterback, so A plus for that.
I think a lot of people were confused by that. I think that was one of the draft stories the whole weekend. One quarterback picked in the first round, none in the second round. I knew the teams weren't as high, but every year there seems to be like, oh, this guy isn't as high on our board, but we're going to jump up and grab the quarterback we want.
Right.
And like even the first quarterback, Pittsburgh was rumored all throughout the process. Maybe they're going to be trading up to go get Kenny Pickett. Maybe they're going to trade up. Maybe they're going to trade up. Stick and pick seemed to be the thing that worked for a lot of teams.
I think because this was a draft that was so deep at so many other positions, other than quarterback, that teams were like, we're not that worried about it because there's so many other positional needs that teams have that are available through this draft, that let's just stay here. We'll eventually get our guy.
Yeah, I also heard leading up to this that on a normal year, the first round, on average, you will get 18 players that have a true first round grade on their name, meaning that at least 14 teams will not get a first round talent if it went per the grades. Right. This draft was rumored to have about 14, which was kind of funny because I mean, those are true draft grades where it's like they're grading them compared to players of the past. Like we're going to talk about some of these players like Nakobe Dean, who fell to the third round in the Philadelphia Eagles. He had a first round grade on him. I don't know if he would have had a true first round grade to be one of those 14 players, but because the draft was so top weak, he would still be considered a first round pick without having that. So stick and pick seem to be a kind of a theme with a few teams leapfrogging.
So before we get into that, then overall, what are your thoughts on the Ravens weekend?
Yeah, I was pretty vocal on Twitter, from Thursday all the way to Saturday. I absolutely loved this draft class. Um, it says a lot when you have a draft class when you have a Jonathan Ogden, Ray Lewis in the first round. I mean, that's going to go down in history. Or you get the draft class where it's Lamar Jackson, um, excuse me, Orlando Brown, Mark Andrews type people, some loaded draft classes. But for this draft class, the first 6 picks in particular, I was floored with. I mean, after the first round, I was like, okay, we're winning the draft. We are one of the teams that are winning the draft, not just because we had 2 first round picks, but because the quality of players that fell in, and one was a need position. But then going into day 2 of the draft, I was like, oh my gosh, these are home run picks that we are hitting. And I guess as a fan of the draft, you always get used to somewhere between rounds 1 and 4, where your team picks a player and you're like, huh? You get that surprise, or maybe you just didn't watch that player's college tape, or maybe you didn't, you just didn't see enough out of it. At least halfway through the third day of the draft, I was like, let's go. I don't even care what happens. Like, still have like 4 or 5 picks left. I don't care. We've won the draft, even if we forfeited our picks from here on out. So I thought it was super, super successful.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens' first 4 picks of Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, David Ojabo, and Travis Jones. Like, that's an outrageous first 4 picks. Like,
now, we just talked about first round talent. Every single one of those guys was a first round or is a first round talent in this draft. Travis Jones, he was a fringe first rounder, but a lot of mocks had him sliding into the top half or the back half of the first round. David Ojabo, we know he's a first round talent, tears his Achilles.
Like, Ojabo is, I want to say, at least a top 20 talent, if not top 15 talent.
I was going to say top 10, if not top 15.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like absolute stud that the Ravens, like, I was hoping Seattle would take him at either 40 or 40. Like, I understand that he's going to need, maybe half a year to a full year to.
There's rumors he's going to be back in October.
That's the thing, right? Like if Seattle had taken him, like, I mean, I don't know much about Boye Mafe. I'm not unhappy about that pick from what I've heard. A lot of people are like, oh, like, he's an old prospect because he's 24 years old, which is hilarious to read. But had they taken Ojabo instead of Mafe, I would have loved that pick.
So Boy Mafia was one of the guys that I think I'll have to go back and look. I think I picked him in our last episode when we did the mock draft with the boys. I'd have to go back. No? Or was he was one of the guys that slid, right?
I think that might have been one of the surprises, but
yeah.
Let me pull it up here.
He was a first round pick. His Lance Zierlein had his NFL comp as Rashawn Gary of the Green Bay Packers, who's tearing it up right now.
Yeah, he love. Sorry, he didn't, to interrupt you. Sorry, he didn't go in our mock draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who's going to be a quality, not even just like a good starter. I think he's going to be a quality edge rusher. He was one of the guys I wanted the Ravens to get in round 2. Like, Obviously, they don't have the luxury when they're picking after the Seahawks. Not that I'm unhappy with the job, but clearly I am. But he was one of the guys when Seattle picked him. You know, when your team is coming up and the guys you want to fall there, so you have like a wealth of riches, you're like, oh, who are we gonna pick? Are we gonna pick Boy Mafia? Are we gonna pick, you know, Ojabo or George Pickens? Um, I love seeing all those names start to slide, and you're like, oh my gosh, like we might even be able to trade back a couple spots and still land one of these
Yeah.
guys that I'm okay with. So I thought it was a home run pick for you guys.
My understanding too is that like Seattle was apparently targeting Kyler Gordon
Oh yeah,
there at 40 or 41.
yep,
And of course he went 39 to I want to say Chicago. It was
yeah,
Chicago. Yeah.
yep.
Because I remember his mom talking about how she's not going to dye her hair orange. But
Literally the pick before, right?
yeah, it was literally the pick before. So obviously, plans changed, and Seattle had an idea of what they wanted to do, and I mean that's the draft. That's especially when you stick and pick, like that's the draft, and you never
Right.
know.
It's so unpredictable. Like I know a lot of Ravens fans, the big clamor right now is like, oh my gosh, we traded Hollywood Brown and we didn't pick up a single wide receiver until the UDFAs. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, sure, like I understand the frustration, but when you want to stick and pick, you have to be okay with certain guys getting taken or getting leapfrog. Like I know we were just talking about the second round. A lot of people thought for sure that John Mechie was going to be the Ravens' second round pick until I think it was the Texans. I think that's where he landed. Whoever the team was, they jumped in front of
I think
the
so. Yeah.
Ravens to pick him. And of course, people are losing their minds. And it's like, well, then go up and get your guy. Like you either have to give up capital to ensure you get your guy or you stick and pick. And to me, if you don't have to give up capital and you get maybe it's not your guy, but it's a really damn good guy who, in my opinion, had top 10 or top 15 potential, barring the injury. I love that pick. I know, I think it was, let's just look it up. The Lions. The Lions leapfrogged in front of the Ravens, who were picking at 14, and picked Jamison Williams, another Alabama wide receiver. Thoughts were that maybe they were going to pick wide receiver in the first round too. There was also thoughts that the Ravens were really high on Jordan Davis. Oh, look, Philly jumped in front of them to take Jordan Davis because he was rumored to them. So it's like, you either pay the premium like other teams were willing to, or you let a different guy fall. And in this case, this draft, I'm so okay with stick and pick because the amount of guys left when you didn't go up to get your guy, if those were your guys, was unbelievable. Having your consolation, if you can call it a consolation prize, as Kyle Hamilton at 14th overall is absolutely nutty. Just before we move on here, Chris, we should probably mention on our YouTube and Facebook pages, if you want to jump in the comments, send in your comments. We'll be able to answer them. Not just about our teams. If you have a question about your teams or you want us to talk about our instant reactions to whatever team, jump in the comments. If you are on Twitter, you can jump in the comments. We just won't be able to see them, unfortunately. Maybe that's something we can ask Elon Musk to fix now that he's bought Twitter. If he could make it somehow readily available that everyone's free speech on the Ball Hawks podcast could come through via comments.
It sounds expensive.
Does money really falter that guy?
Yeah, well, sounds like Elon will probably charge a pretty penny for that.
Well, maybe we'll just tack it on with some of our sponsors.
Perfect.
One other thing we should mention before we jump into some things, we're going to do favorite pick from our team, most surprising pick, and then maybe biggest draft story surprise from your team, and then the one that got away. We should mention that the NFL draft had a record for the most players selected from a school. with the Georgia Bulldogs sending 15 players into the NFL in a 7-round draft. The last one was Darian Kendrick to the LA Rams. So that's a pretty cool accomplishment for them. A program that hadn't won a national title, a program that I hate to say it because they beat Alabama for that, but just an absolutely stacked team that deserved every one of those guys getting drafted. So congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs program for that.
Super stacked. And like
Stacked like pancakes.
You know what's even like 0 Texas Longhorns got drafted this
I
year.
saw that as well.
Isn't that wild?
It just seems wrong, doesn't
it? Just seems right. Like you hear the Longhorns, like, well, there's got to be someone. Like
all these like Division 2, Division 3 schools sending a couple players here and there, and you're like, but the Longhorns didn't have just one guy that was good enough to.
Wasn't Dicker the kicker from Texas?
Was he?
I don't know. We should ask Ryan. Ryan would know that answer.
He's
but
Dicker the kicker.
But yeah, how was nobody from Texas drafted? That would be like saying nobody from the University of Miami was drafted. Like,
right.
Like you
hear the U get drafted,
right? Yeah, like USC or like it's just one of those big time schools.
Yeah,
super bizarre.
Okay, Chris, let's get into it. Your favorite pick out of all of your pick, and again, I was really impressed with the Seahawks draft. I know, weirdly or oddly, there was a lot of people who kind of crapped on their draft strategy. Like the Ravens, I actually liked your first 7 picks that your team made. Who do you have as your favorite pick?
I mean, Charles Cross is cool and all, but like nobody gets excited.
So easy to pick the franchise left tackle.
Well, I said to a few people, like, nobody gets excited about the offensive line pick. Like it's not the sexy pick that you, but it's not the sexy pick that you like. It's not the edge
so sexy,
but it's not the edge rusher or the stud quarterback. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When I say as far as like sexy picks go, my favorite pick though is Kobe Bryant, cornerback from Cincinnati.
Nice.
6'1", 193, runs a 4.54 40. But my favorite thing about Kobe Bryant is he is a polished DB. He is ready to start tomorrow because he faced so much competition at Cincinnati because Sauce Gardner was shutting everyone else down. That
you just didn't throw on Sauce's side.
Exactly, right? You didn't throw on Sauce. You had no other option but to throw at Kobe Bryant. So yeah, that is easily my favorite pick. Especially to get him at the start of the 4th round. I think that's great value. I know that's kind of right around where he was projected to go, is kind of the 3rd or 4th round. But yeah, he is easily my favorite pick. Like you and I were talking about the other day, I'm like, I wonder if he goes with number 8 or number 24, but I feel like number 24 is still kind of off limit. So I feel like he'll probably go with number 8 to honor his namesake, of course. But yeah, just a guy that you find in the 4th round that's probably ready to start tomorrow and is already a polished professional cornerback is super impressive.
Yeah, and man, Cincinnati Bearcats defense was for real. Like you said, they weren't going to throw balls towards Sauce's side because why would you?
Right.
So he's like battle tested, right? Where it's just an immediate day one plug and play starter, most likely anyways. I mean, he's going to have to go through camp and earn his
battle with Trey Brown and Sidney Jones and whatever. And like, I would like to give an honorable mention to Tariq Woolen as well. Another DB that they picked in the 5th round, 6'4", runs like a 4.26 40 or something ridiculous like that. Like former wide receiver, just like very, very similar comps to Richard Sherman. Sherman's a former wide receiver. Sherman's, I don't remember how tall Sherman is off the top of my head, but like just very similar. Like
6'3", 6'4".
Yeah, like attack the ball, like go get it, tape guy. The only thing with Woolen is he apparently struggles with tackles. So he might take a little bit more time to translate his game into the professional model. But yeah, I'm so happy with the Kobe Bryant pick.
I know a lot of Ravens fans were somewhat displeased when he got picked the pick before they made their selection in the 4th round, but it worked out for them getting the behemoth, the sun blocker himself, because he's such a monster, Daniel Falele. But I know that was probably they picked Falele, and then a few picks later they picked Jalen Armour Davis out of Alabama. I know they were looking corner there. That might have been their corner that they were eyeing up the whole time. It might not have. Only Eric DaCosta in the war room would know. But there's a solid chance he was going to the Ravens the very next pick. So I love that pick.
We could have used Falele in the Phillips front yard this afternoon. Both my kids and my wife are a little pink today. I don't know how I escaped it, but my wife and my kids are a little bit sunburnt today, and somehow the pastiest guy in the household escaped all of the sunburns.
Good for you. My favorite pick, when you sent this to me, I don't really want to pick because I have so many favorites. Like I said, the first at least 6 picks I absolutely love. I love the fact that, like I said, the best safety in the draft, maybe one of the top 5 players in the draft, dropped to them at 14. We know the Ravens value safety. Really hard not to pick that. Also, really hard not to pick Tyler Linderbaum, who is an immediate plug and play starter at a position of need. But the one I'm going to pick is maybe the unsexy pick, like you call it. D tackle Travis Jones out of Connecticut. Yeah. He was a guy that I, again, had 1st round gradings on, thought he could slide into the back end of one. He lasted until pick 76. So what value? 6'4", 325 pounds, and he ran a 4.92. Like, how these guys are doing this, I'll never know. And so the big thing why I like this one so much is there was so much talk about Jordan Davis being the pick at 14. So when you miss out on him, you say to yourself, okay, well, we'll get somebody later on. Maybe we're not as high on. I would say that's a damn good consolation prize if you pick up that guy as your 3 technique. He definitely is a nose tackle. We have a need there. We did get Michael Pierce back, but Brandon Williams wouldn't be coming back, so he's probably going to be competing for that starting nose. I love the pick. I just love value picks. Anytime there's value, I absolutely love it. That was...
Especially for Jones to fall into the 3rd round. Like, yeah. You said you gave him a 1st round grade, but like at worst, I would have thought he would have been a 2nd round pick. For him to fall
to the first 10 picks in the second day after all the hype is there, they're like, wow, there's still a lot of quality players here. Like, we got a top 10 pick right now. He's sitting right there for the taking.
Yeah. Like one of those guys that maybe someone trades up to go and get, right?
Yeah.
So to get him in that early 3rd round was super impressive. Totally. I think because the 2nd round was Friday.
Yeah. 2nd round was Friday.
Yeah. So I was at Lacrosse when that happened. I was like, holy crap, Travis Jones fell to the 3rd round. Like I couldn't really express my thoughts because I was on the bench when we were talking, but I couldn't believe it. And then like I kept texting you guys like, where's Malik Willis going?
Yeah. The 3rd round, coincidentally.
Yeah. Wild. Like, everyone talks about the Aaron Rodgers fall, and Aaron Rodgers fall is the reason why guys don't go to the draft anymore and don't sit in the green room. Well, I mean, Malik Willis going to falling all the way to the third round while sitting in the green room is not a good look for the NFL.
Wow.
I mean, and I'm not going to say like not a good look for the I did just say not a good look for the NFL.
You could just say it,
Yeah,
bud.
I did just say it, but it's one of those like things where it's just like this is why guys don't want to come into the draft. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
he
sure.
like the media pumped him up so much. Oh, this guy's gonna be a first round pick. This guy's gonna be a first round pick. So the NFL invited him to the draft, and he sat in the green room till pick, what was it, 86 or something like that. Like,
Yeah, it was something like that.
it's crazy, crazy to me. That's why you're seeing more and more guys stay home.
Yeah, because then at least they can just be disappointed in front of their family.
Right. Well,
I'm
and at least experience it with their family rather than being like, okay, you get to come to the draft and sit in the green room, but you only get like 6 people to come with you or
Yeah,
whatever it may be, right?
yeah, totally. Okay, Chris, let's jump to a fun one. The most surprising pick for you.
I mean, this one's easy. It's Kenneth Walker the third,
Yeah,
running back, Michigan State. Seattle picked him at number 41 overall, so early second round pick. Personally, I love the pick. Seeing everyone on Twitter being like, Seahawks get an F for taking Kenneth Walker in the second round. Like, clearly there's something going on with Chris Carson that we all don't know. Rashad Penny has struggled with staying healthy as well his entire career.
and he's only on a 1-year contract,
And
so
he's
if
only
he
on
blows up, you have
exactly.
to pay him.
Exactly. Like, I think I actually think every single running back in Seattle right now, other than Kenneth Walker, is on a 1-year deal. Carson's got 1 year left. Penny's got 1 year left. I think Homer and DJ are both on the last year of their rookie deals. I would have to look that up to be 100% certain on that. But like, you're in a position where you have 2 running backs who are starting quality running backs that can't stay healthy on the last on 1 year deals. You have 2 guys that, I mean, Homer and DJ Dallas haven't really proven they can be the starter either. So while it may be surprising to most, and it was to me too when they took him, I was like, really? A running back in the second round? Like, what the hell are you guys doing? It does make sense. It was the right choice. But in the moment, you're like, what the what?
I
Like,
feel like too many people, when there's a surprise pick, they instantly think it has to be a negative or a bad thing. Like, you can be shocked and you can even think like, oh, that's the wrong pick. And then you can kind of come around with those kinds of things. It's actually why I try to stay off of social media during the draft, because it's like something happens like that where you're like, what the hell are you doing? And then the more you think of it, you're like, oh, I know exactly what they're doing. And guess what? It's not a bad pick. It's not like they picked a running back who had like a 7th round UDFA grade on him. Like, this is
no,
widely regarded as the second or first running back to come off of people's draft boards. So, like, if
he
that was
finished
your guide, get him.
he finished third in Heisman voting. Like,
Yeah.
it's
He's not a schlub.
yeah, he's not a schlub. Like, and I mean, it's like the Russell Wilson trade, right? Like, and initially it's shock, like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. But then you have a few hours to sit down and think about it and like really like work it out, and you're like, well, no, like from a business standpoint, like that really does make sense why they would trade that player or why they would draft that player. Um, Speaking of Russell Wilson, I do get a little bit of joy out of the fact I believe it was late last season where Russell Wilson, like Kenneth Walker, had like a outrageous like long touchdown run, and Russell Wilson was like let's go Kenneth Walker, and like some of like bringing him to Seattle or something like that. So I do get joy out of that. That Russell Wilson's not getting Kenneth Walker in his backfield. But yeah, I like I said, I was shocked, and my dad's like, "What the hell are they doing, taking a running back in the second round?" And I'm like, obviously, there's more to do with Chris Carson's neck injury than we all know about.
Yeah.
I honestly seen that. I said it to multiple people. I might have said it to you as well, Steve. Carson is obviously done, in my
Yeah.
opinion. If they're taking the guy in the second round, so yeah, I love it. He's one of those every down back kind of guys. So
I also
let's bring it on.
ask a bunch of people what they think about the Ravens having J.K. Dobbins on their team right now and see what the reaction is. Like when the Ravens picked J.K. Dobbins in the second round, they had a lot more pressing needs, and everyone was like, a running back. Like same thing. They had Mark Ingram, who just had a resurgent year on his career. He was a Pro Bowler. They had Gus Edwards, averaging his 5.96 yards a carry. They had a young guy in Justice Hill, and then they go and take a second round running back. Well, guess what? That's your lead back now. That's like one of your featured weapons that you're going to use. And like the more that time passes and the more Kenneth Walker gets on the field and shows what he can do as like a weapon, people are going to be like, "Oh, okay, like this was actually a good pick."
And let's say Rashad Penny, for example. Let's say Rashad Penny puts together an entire season like he did for the last, what was it, 4 or 5 games of the season last year. Well, now he's priced himself out of the market in Seattle,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, so it's one of those things where you're kind of like hedging your bets that the guy you have is going to have a really good season, but he's going to price himself out. So let's worry about the future.
Yeah.
And take this guy. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kenneth Walker take, a air quote red shirt season in the NFL.
I would find that if Chris Carson is really done, I would find that that would shock me just with how much volume the Seahawks run the ball at, especially having Drew Lock there. Like you're gonna want to rely on a strong running game, and you guys just solidified the O line. Like
But it's
it's
something that
sounding like old school football, man.
Pete loves to redshirt guys. He can't escape that college mentality where he just loves to redshirt guys because, like, sure, okay, like Carson can't play. Well, we still have Rashad Penny, we still have Travis Homer, we still have DJ Dallas, we have Josh Johnson. Like, we have other guys that like we'll let these guys play while Kenneth Walker learns the system.
Oh man, when you see what Kenneth Walker can do on a football field, it's going to be. I mean, we know it can happen to the Urban Meyers of the world who keep the James Robinsons on the bench just because, I don't know, maybe he disagreed with him once and, James Robinson just didn't put up with his crap. But when you see what Kenneth Walker can do on a football field, that explosive, that home run hitter, I think it's going to be hard for Pete Carroll to keep him off the football field.
Either way, I can't wait to see the camp battles.
Totally.
Super excited for it.
My surprising pick shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. Anytime you take a kicker or a punter in the fourth round, that's going to be one of those "what in the hell are you doing" moments. Now, the big controversy here, filtering through Ravens Twitter, was that they didn't pick what was the guy called, the punting god or something like that.
Yeah, the punt god, I think it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because
Manareza.
he can kick really far. Like, great, that's
Cool.
awesome. It came out later that the guy the Ravens picked, Jordan Stout out of Penn State, he was actually higher on almost everyone's draft boards because he is a ready now punter. The NFL's kind of changed in a way where you don't need a punter that can just kick really far. You need a punter that can have a lot of hang time so you can pin opponents and kind of neutralize those big return games. And that's what Jordan Stout does. These punters, man, they're not your old school punters. I remember watching the combine and the punters were running, and I was like, what the hell are they like? Why are they running the punters out? And Jordan Stout goes out and runs a 4.65, and I was like, whoa, like dude can run. Like he can run. And I started watching some of his college tapes, because why wouldn't I do that? Um,
I
he,
want to watch the punter tape.
I know he made some coverage tackles by getting there before his teammates did. Now, his teammates would have gotten like those first line of blocks and stuff like that. But the fact that like your punter punts it and then sprints down and makes the tackle is a testament to
And
uh,
and and with
his
that type of speed, it opens up fakes, right?
right, which we know the Ravens love to do. My heart just hurts. Sam Cook has been on this team for like, I think he's played 200 and oh no, he sat one game out because of COVID, but he's played like 256 games for the Ravens.
Dude,
Um,
I get it. I
I have
felt the
watched a lot of Sam Cook tapes. You can ask our buddy Ted about this. Him and I have had some weird punter talks. Sam Cook has something weird, like most kickers in the NFL have like they've got a spiral kick that kicks the ball really far, probably like the Matareza kind of thing. And then they've got a kind of like an end over one that kind of stops it from going into the end zone. I was watching this thing, and Sam Cook has something ridiculous, like 17 to 20 different types of punts where it comes off of his leg differently, where the spin will go the other way, or it'll curl. I don't know. He went through it all, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is like, he is an absolute technician at his craft. And if you draft a punter in the fourth round, Sam Cook will not be on the team next year. It's a cap casualty thing. If he still wants to play, maybe this is a thing where they knew he was going to retire, or maybe they don't. I just hope this kid can learn a little bit from Sam Cook before taking over, because those are big, big shoes to fill. Um, Perfect passer rating, Sam. He on all of his fakes, he has never missed a pass in the NFL. I think he's like 8 for 8 or something like that.
I I understand your feelings because when Seattle drafted Michael Dixon, same thing. I want to say it was like a fifth round pick, and like Michael Dixon can boom the ball 80 yards and blah 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 blah. And it's just like the writing is on the wall. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna bring both guys into camp and they're gonna compete for a spot and yada yada. But it's just like John Ryan was the incumbent, and I mean John Ryan is an absolute hero in Seattle for that fake field goal touchdown pass in the NFC Championship game. I mean, he's a Canadian hero. He once practiced lacrosse with the University of Washington lacrosse team. So, of course, immediately finds a spot in my heart for that.
Yeah.
So I get it when like you see the incumbent, the old guy, just kind of being like, quietly but not so quietly being replaced, right?
It's tough. And I mean, the other thing is, like, Ted and I talked about this um, when they picked him, because Cleveland actually picked a kicker right before that. And he's like, oh, please tell me it's that Cade guy. And I was like, are you actually happy about a punt or a kicker in the fourth round? And he's like, yeah, because if that's your guy and you're hearing that other teams are going to take that position value, like, it kind of drives the board up. And like, my argument obviously was, yeah, but in the fifth round, there was guys like Darian Kennard that went to I think it was Kansas City. You guys got Tariq Woolen, who I was really high on. Um, there's another corner that went to the Bucks, Zion McCollum. There was just so many other quality position players that, my argument was like, why didn't you wait? And then he was like, but if other teams are thinking the same way, then you lose out on your guy. So at pick 124, the Browns picked a kicker, Cade York from LSU, and he was amped for it. He was like, "Well, we need a kicker. Everyone else in that division has it." 130, the Ravens take Jordan Stout. 133, the Bucks pick Jake Camarda, another punter out of Georgia. Um, I think there was a few, there might have been some more in the 5th round, but I was like, oh, look at that. Like there's actually a run on kickers and punters. So not only did the NFL draft take way too many edibles on day one with all those wide receiver trades, but then it came back in the 4th round and it was like, yeah, it's really a punter and kicker year this year, boys. Like
Now,
we're gonna start taking them.
do you think the NFL draft operates on the same rules as fantasy football? First guy to take kicker has to take a shot.
I would assume so, right? Like,
right?
The dog pound is in there getting just gooned out of their minds.
Yeah. Shot a fireball for the first guy that takes kicker.
That would be so funny if like you're watching like the NFL Network feed and it shows like their draft room and everybody's like, yes, it really happens. Let's go.
I mean, after I called Derek Stingley Jr. to the Texans, I mean, clearly they're listening to the show. So next year, guys, first team to take kicker, GM's got to do a shot
on live television in front
of live television. It's gonna be Sean McVay and Les Snead. They're like, F them picks. Let's take a kicker.
Give me your biggest surprise storyline from the Seahawks draft weekend.
Not taking a linebacker.
Right.
That's the easiest narrative that I can choose. After releasing Bobby Wagner, seeing him go to LA, like I thought it was absolute certainty that Seattle would have taken an off-ball linebacker this year. Didn't happen. I really wanted Darian Beavers from Cincinnati. That didn't happen. So I mean, next year is, I keep saying like next year's going to be the quarterback year. Well, next year obviously is going to be the off-ball linebacker year as well. Seeing as Seattle does have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. But yeah, that was without question the biggest surprise for me.
And especially when someone like Nakobe Dean falls to the Eagles in the 3rd round. I know there was like medical things that came up during the draft, but you're like, the guy can play. Like, look at him. Like, that is like the epitome of what off-ball linebackers look like. Like, I felt like there was a lot of them that were out there that were for the taken later on. Like, there was Chad Muma was out there. Who else? Nick Benito. I don't know where he went. Channing Tindall as well.
Is Benito off ball though?
I think this hybrid role. He basically played like a ton of spy,
right.
Which is why there was a lot of talk of him coming to the AFC North to spy a guy like Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, now Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and it's wild. Like Jacksonville got 2 of the linebackers that I wanted at least one of them in Seattle because Jacksonville took Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma.
Yeah.
Right? Like they absolutely cleaned up at the linebacker position.
They knew they go and get it.
I wanted Seattle to trade back into the 1st round to go get Devin Lloyd. Like when he was sitting there because Jacksonville took him at what was it 27? I wanted Seattle to trade back go get him. Absolute stud, like sideline to sideline linebacker. Go get that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously that's something that Seattle is comfortable with who they have in Jordan Brooks and Cody Barton. Ben Burke, Curvin is coming back from injury. So obviously they're happy with who they have in-house, but I feel like that's probably going to be a position that Seattle is targeting next year is an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah. Again, kind of shocking to me with how many, readily available ones were kind of just there for the taking. My biggest storyline is what I mentioned earlier. No wide receiver taken by the Ravens. I think everybody was shocked Not that receiver was like a position of need going into it, but obviously round one, they trade Marquise Brown to the Arizona Cardinals to get back into the first round. You lost one of your top two wide receivers. So it was like, oh, they're for sure going to get one. And they didn't pick up a single wide receiver. And they also did this thing that they really like to do. They really like to double dip on positions and especially tight ends. So they had 6 picks in the fourth round. And that was, I think, like a draft record or something like that. The most picks in one round. So at pick 128, they took Charlie Kolar out of Iowa State, and then they came back. It was one of those picks where it's like, well, we have Mark Andrews, we have Nick Boyle, they have Josh Oliver. Tight end was like the furthest thing on my radar for something that we needed. And so they picked Charlie Kolar, and I was like, all right. That was my first, like, wasn't really feeling it pick, but I understand like they put a premium on tight ends. They like having that third one there. They then pick a punter 2 picks later. I'm starting to get a little confused. Like, what the hell's going on here? We just had 6 amazing picks. And then 9 picks later, they pick tight end Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. And I was like, okay, like I'm officially shocked that we have not picked a wide receiver yet. And we just double dipped on tight ends. I still think there was, some wide receivers available there. I would have liked to see a cornerback. Our corner room is a little thin still right now. I'm not going to reveal it yet, but my one that got away was a person that was still there when these guys were getting picked. So that shocked me a lot going forward. Who, Chris, is your one that got away? Your one person in the draft where you were like, yeah, let's go get that guy. They didn't get them, and another team maybe leapfrogged you or just got picked somewhere close before you, and you're like, oh, that's the one that got away.
Really quick while I pull that up here, because I know who that guy is. No. I just want to say, like, it was really cool how Isaiah Likely tweeted, and I saw you retweet it, being like, I just realized I'm going to be in Madden.
Yeah.
Like, that has to be a super cool feeling for all these kids being drafted.
I think we forget that these are kids like we once were, probably playing Madden. It's like a pipe dream of theirs. They love football. They play football all the time, but like it's so hard to actually get into the show. And then they get in and it's like, oh, sweet, I'm drafted. And then a couple days goes by or a day goes by and they're like, holy crap, I'm going to be a player in Madden. Like I don't even have to create my player. I might create them because they're probably going to give me a worse rating than what I think I'm worth. But like my character is going to be in there. And I thought that was a really cool moment for him.
Yeah. For me, it's Darian Beavers.
I just can't go over him.
No, I mentioned him earlier. See him fall to pick 186. I don't understand it. I feel like he's a guy that could have come into Seattle and potentially balled out in camp, and like, I don't want to say potential starter in the 6th round, but like you never know, right? And to see Seattle have 2 7th round picks that they spent on wide receivers, which is also a bit surprising to me. I don't quite understand that mentality. I just don't understand why they didn't use those 2 7th round picks to trade up and go get a guy like Darian Beavers. I also would have really liked to see a guy like Donovan West in Seattle, center out of Arizona State. Maybe a guy that's not ready to start right away, but could have taken a year or 2 behind Austin Blythe to learn the position, like fine tune his skills and become that starting center of the future. So those are definitely two guys that are kind of the ones that got away for me, so to speak.
Yeah, I had mentioned my person that got away. I thought this was an easy fourth round pick, especially when you had 6 of them. Um, take a flyer. Even it was a position of need. Going to cornerbacks again. Zion McCollum out of Sam Houston State falls to pick 157 in the 5th round. There was a need there. He was a guy that I had going in like the 3rd or 4th round. So when you see those guys continue to fall, you're like, huh, like there's a chance we could get him. He's a big corner, 6'2", 199, big arms. Kind of plays that like big ball game. He's a ball hawk guy. Like, the Ravens weren't the best in turning the ball over last year. So I was like, we need some of these guys that like have traits who are, want to go get the ball. That's why I'm excited for Kyle Hamilton. But in the 5th round and you double dipped on tight ends and a punter, that's definitely one that got away. And then I went with a undrafted free agent who, I had him going somewhere in the 5th, 6th round. We took Tyler Beatty out of Missouri, who's going to be a good running back for us. He's going to be in that running back 3 role. But again, our cornerback room is so thin right now. Last year, we were playing with like everybody's scraps from their practice roster, and teams just torched us. Like Cincinnati threw for like 50,000 yards on us every time they came out. So I was like, this is an obvious pick. Josh Joby, however you want to say it, out of Alabama, did not get drafted. And I'm thinking to myself, like, just spending a 6th round pick on him, or, trading back in the 6th round to get a 7th, and you would have gotten this guy to make sure that he didn't, make other phone calls, because, you have to make those phone calls to get them to come in, and they can always say like, no, we really like the Ravens, but since you didn't pick us, I don't want to go there. Like, you clearly don't value me. Whereas some of these other teams, like maybe you didn't have conversations with them. So, 2 corners that I thought were a good fit for the Ravens, who I really wanted to see there. All for nothing. They did not get those guys. I still am happy with them getting Jalen Armour Davis. He's basically what Anthony Averett is. Easy kind of replacement there. They picked Demarion Williams from Houston, who projects like a slot nickel kind of guy, which is nice because we lost Tavon Young. But again, such a position of need. I would have liked to see one more dip there. So Zion was my guy. We got one last thing. We've been talking a lot about our teams, but I wanted to give some shout outs to other teams in the draft. There are, 30 other teams that drafted players, Chris. So if you had to pick one other winner, I'm going to give you the first crack and just hope you don't take my team. Who was your win? I've got 5 different ones here, so it's okay.
Which is funny because I want to turn it around on you and be like, well, who's your guy? Because I don't want like I have really 2 teams that I'm kind of like hovering.
Okay,
but
you give me your 2 teams. I've got 6 teams that I think had a ridiculously good draft, so I'll be okay.
First team is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah,
killed it. Trading for AJ Brown first of all, and then extending him to a 4-year, $100 million deal. Like no brainer.
Yeah.
Which
it was only a first round pick.
Right?
Like I think we forget that like draft picks, they're sexy, they're good, young, attainable contracts, younger players. They're lottery tickets, essentially. You're hoping that the guy you pick pans out to be a pro, and it's not like, a Justin Blackmon. Remember way back when the Jaguars, I think they picked him fourth or eighth,
He
like
was
in the
super high. He was a top 10 pick for sure.
top 10 pick. He was everything they wanted him to be out of, I think it was Oklahoma State, big, rangy outside receiver. Didn't pan out. You know what you get in AJ Brown. You
Yeah.
know what you got in him.
And like, apparently the contract negotiations between AJ and Tennessee, it was like AJ wanted 22 million a year from Tennessee, and Tennessee offered him 16. He's like, nope, I'm see ya. Right?
Wow.
And I was getting 25 mil a year from Philly, which is a no-brainer. Like,
and like, I'm sorry, but you had Ryan Tannehill. Who did they end up they took Malik Willis.
They took Malik, yeah.
They took Malik Willis, but like, you had an old Ryan Tannehill throwing you the ball. I know it's not like that big of an upgrade. Maybe it's not an upgrade going to Philly, but he's going to be paired opposite Devontae Smith, and that's going to be a fun duo to watch for sure.
AJ Brown is a safety blanket.
Yeah.
Anytime that the Titans were in trouble, it was throw it up to AJ. He'll go get it.
Yeah, he can play under. He can play outside. Like, he can take the top off of defense.
I love DK Metcalf, but I would rank AJ Brown slightly ahead of DK.
I would too.
Yeah, and like AJ Brown is just like it could be systems, but AJ Brown is that dude. Like right?
Sure.
But then for the Eagles to go out and get Jordan Davis, 13th overall, Cam Jurgens, center from Nebraska, 51st overall, and
Pete Jurgens,
right? Like, big time, like ready to play center. Like, I think Kelsey is coming back this year, so Jurgens has a year or two probably to learn behind.
He'll just slot into guard for now until Kelsey's ready to go away.
Yeah, exactly. And then
he's too busy in his own line of beef jerky anyways, where he's just like, I've got football, but I've got my beef jerky too.
and then they got Nakobe Dean. So the Eagles absolutely killed it. The other team I'm giving a shout out to, we talked about this a lot in private, the New York Jets.
Yep.
Killed it. Like, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, like,
even Max Mitchell in the 4th round. That's a guy that, we picked up Daniel Falele, who I had a little higher than Max Mitchell, but Max Mitchell is a very good tackle prospect who you can slot in at guard right away. I thought, up and down the draft board, like, if you're going to have 3 first-round picks, or 2, and you trade back in because Jermaine Johnson fell so friggin' far, hit on all of them, and they hit on all of them. Like, those are 3 impact players. And then, in the 2nd round, getting, a guy like Breece Hall, the best running back in the draft, I think, anyways.
Second best after Kenneth Walker the third.
That's right. After Tyler Beatty as well.
Yeah.
I saw a funny today that was like, all the girls in Baltimore are going to want to get Beatty jerseys because they're thinking it's Batty on there. I'm sure he would be okay with you purchasing his jersey thinking it said Batty on it. So good.
But yeah, Eagles and the Jets, I feel like, had a top tier weekend. Those 2 teams absolutely killed it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give you my other 4. I'll just kind of rip through them a little quickly. You can stop me here. The Green Bay Packers, picking up the 2 Georgia front 7 guys in Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt was huge. Getting Aaron Rodgers a target, and Christian Watson, who is a very good wide receiver. In the 4th round, Romeo, I think it's pronounced Dubes. I wanted the Ravens to kind of take a shot on. The Packers picked him a little before. They picked up it says he's a guard. He probably projects to be a guard. Zach Tom, good prospect. Rasheed Walker in the 7th round. Rasheed Walker, tackle. Good pick. Kingsley Inigbari, Just a lot of value picks later on, which I really like. The Buffalo Bills. I don't think enough people are talking about them as a contender. If it wasn't for a coin flip, they might have been in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So what do? They go pair Tre'Davious White with Kyer Elam, who is a big, nasty outside physical corner. I had them picking Brees Hall in the first round. They knew what I was talking about because they came back in the second round and grabbed James Cook, who, don't think of him as his brother, but he's got some home run hitting power. And then they grabbed a wide receiver, Khalil Shakir, that I thought was kind of like he just popped off the tape, like made ridiculous catches. I just thought they got a lot better really quietly. The Texans, we made a lot of fun of the Houston Texans in our last week's episode because the draft needs, when you go to Pro Football Focus mock draft, the need said all. And I was like, okay, that's because you guys suck. But guess what? They picked up a lot of good players. Derek Stingley, you mentioned. They got Kenyon Green in the first round. Really, really good tackle. Jalen Petrie was kind of like a fringe first rounder safety. A lot of people thought he was a corner because that's what Pro Football Focus said on there. He's not a corner, projects more of a safety. I had mentioned they traded in front of the Ravens to grab John Mechie out of Alabama. In the third, they went back to Alabama and grabbed Christian Harris, who's a really good running back or linebacker. And then in the fourth round, Damian Pierce is a really quality running back from Florida, and they need a running back like you wouldn't believe. So a team
Wait. David Johnson's not the answer?
Oh, he still plays there? I thought it was only Rex Burkhead now.
Okay, sorry. Rex Burkhead's not the answer.
My God.
Yeah, my question stands. Yeah,
it stands. And then the last team that I thought got a lot better, and it really sucks because I was kind of hoping for their demise, was the Kansas City Chiefs. They picked up Trent McDuffie at pick 21, who a lot of people had in the top 15.
Yeah.
Amazing value. They had their other first round pick in George Karlaftis, which again, another guy that could have went in the top 20 kind of range. Two really good players on that defense. That's going to make it really good. They also added Brian Cook, safety out of Cincinnati, part of that really good Wildcats defense we were just talking about, Brian Cook. And then they added Leo Chenal from Wisconsin, linebacker, which I also mentioned. So that's 4 kind of impact players that I could see all of them starting for this team next year. They also grabbed Sky Moore, who's kind of, nobody's a Tyreek Hill clone, but he's kind of that shifty, speedy, really, really good wide receiver. I had mentioned last week on our pod, I wouldn't be surprised if he went early too. And he did. And they also picked up a tackle, Darian Kennard, that might not seem like a really good pick, but they got him in the 5th round. And they still don't have Orlando Brown Jr. signed to a long-term deal, which is why they had to get rid of Tyreek Hill in the first place. So they need contingency plans, and that was just a smart pick. So if you're a fan of those teams, shout out to you guys. We thought you did a great job drafting this weekend. It was a bit of a tongue twister. We're over the hour marker here, Chris. That was a fun one. I love chatting the draft. Probably going to be talking draft 2023 now, of course.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words or ending messages?
No. Like I said, I'm excited for training camp to start, OTAs, rookie mini camps. Like, I just want to see these guys getting pads. I want to see guys getting physical and like.
Let's get physical.
Let's get it going, right? Like, like you said, like let's get physical, right? Like let's go. Like I'm ready. Like I want to see these
So hard
guys
to win
in
now.
yeah, like I want to see these guys in camp, ready to go, like battling for their spot. Like that's what I'm ready for now. Like I'm super. I mean, of course, everyone in Seahawks fandom is like, well, what about quarterback? Well, you know what? They have Drew Lock and they have Geno Smith there. I mean, obviously Baker Mayfield is still a contingency plan, but Seattle's not trading for him unless Baker's released outright.
Yeah.
There's no way Seattle's trading. Excuse me, trading for that $18 million contract. So let's get into camp. Let's see these guys in pads, which I don't think really happens until July, but
Yeah.
I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
Hell
Last
yeah.
words for you on your Ravens?
Same thing. I mean, I'm excited to see how they slot in. I love watching the camp battles. I've been looking at the undrafted free agents. The Ravens have this ridiculous streak of one undrafted free agent, rookie free agent makes the team every single year, makes their 53-man roster. I can't remember how many straight years it is, but it's something ridiculous, like 15 to 20 straight years. So there's just a lot of things to talk about. But
So you're
now
saying there's a chance.
you're telling me there's a chance. Um, yeah, it's just one of those things where these become the dog days of the summer early on for me because all of the excitement is kind of gone. I mean, there is kind of like that next wave of free agency now that teams have made their selections. They got to start shoring up some holes. So I mean, the Ravens, I think they have 5 undrafted free agents signed already for wide receivers. I would be shocked if they don't go out and get a vet free agent wide receiver, specifically one that maybe can kind of stretch the field in that Marquise Brown role. But yeah, just like you, I'm excited to see how these guys fit in and see them play ball on the team and in the schemes and did we make the right choices? Is David Ajabo ahead of schedule? Like there's so many storylines. We just have to wait months for them.
Yeah.
Last words before we sign off. I always give you them.
um, as always, guys, give us a follow on Twitter at ballhawks_pod. You can find me over there at Phillips Chris 12. Don't forget Steve at SS Fisher 87. We are a proud member of the Dean Blundell Network. And as always, guys, go Hawks.
Peace.